Hello. Hopefully you all can hear me. Welcome to our question and answer session. And I think we had intended on doing a little brief intro to Peak initially, just in case you missed the video or any of the other materials that we put out. Yuki, do we have those slides available? So this just gives you a little idea of what we're going to go through today. We have a roughly 10 or 15 minutes intro to Peak. And that I'll be basically going through a bunch of slides, just introducing some of the basic material about that. And then we'll do Q&A for the rest of the hour. Please note that this session is being recorded and the recording may be shared on YouTube. If you have any questions, please use the Zoom Q&A function. Please do not type your questions directly into the chat. Get the next slide, Yuki. Yeah, let's go one more. Thank you. Okay, so as you probably saw in the videos, just in case you didn't, so Peak offers students from around the world the opportunity to study in English, right? So no prior Japanese required, right? And get a bachelor's degree from the University of Tokyo. This was launched in 2012. So we've been going on over a decade now. And it consists of 2 undergraduate courses taught entirely in English. Those 2 undergraduate courses are the International Program on the Environmental Sciences and the International Program on Japan in East Asia. I want to make sure you all understand that no Japanese language knowledge is required to join Peak. Okay. However, there are Japanese language classes that are included in the courses, and we do require that our students take at least some basic Japanese. Next slide, please. The basic structure of the program is that the first 2 years are a general liberal arts curriculum. It does vary a little bit between the 2 majors that I just mentioned, but nonetheless, we believe that those first 2 years are really meant to give you a good general foundation in education, and then to essentially be good, well-informed citizens. And then in the 3rd and 4th years, we have the specializations, with the environmental sciences focusing on things like environmental principles, material science, management policy, energy and resources, and so forth. And Japan and East Asia focusing on things like history and the social and some natural sciences, economics, politics, so forth. Next slide. So in terms of applying to Peak, our procedure is a little different from the rest of the university in order to be more international and allow students to basically go through whatever examinations are necessary without having to come to Japan. So we basically require an online application. As a part of that, you need to write an essay. And we need to get your official school transcripts from whatever high school that you're in, a certificate of generally expected graduation, since you're probably still in high school at the time of application, official examination results for academic ability. This refers to a series of different standardized examinations that we take, official test scores of English proficiency if you are not a native English speaker or were not educated primarily in English, and 2 letters of recommendation. Next slide, please. Our application process has several stages to it. In the first stage, you submit your documents and we screen those. The current application period is the 13th of November to the 13th of December for this year. This is strict. There are no exceptions on this. And so once we have your application, we screen it and we decide whether to take your application to the second stage. The second stage is an online interview, and if you're applying for the environmental sciences, it also includes an online math exam. And on the basis of that online interview, as well as your previous scores, we decide whether to admit you or not. And so successful applicants are then offered places based on the results of those 2 stages combined. And this is for enrollment in September of 2024. Next slide, please. And in terms of our graduates, can you move on to the next slide? So although we have these two majors, you might think that they would be going into very particular fields, but actually, they have very broad interests and they go kind of all over the place. So about half of them go on to graduate school and about half of them go on into direct employment. There are a few people that decide to kind of, stay out of both camps for a little while, probably to get a little life experience. A lot of them stay in Japan, a lot of them go to the US or the UK, and then we have the rest of the world covered as well. Japan, the US, and the UK are the dominant places that they go to. In terms of employment, a lot of our students like to stay within Japan, not all of them. Some of them go back to their own countries and go on with their jobs there. Next slide, please. In terms of the graduate study institution, so, although we do environmental studies and, the environmental sciences and Japan and East Asia, they do cover all sorts of majors, really all sorts of interests. And so they can go all over the world in terms of the institutions that they would study at for graduate school. So just a few that I would like to point out here are, for example, the University of British Columbia, very well known for its ecology programs. ETH Zurich, which is one of the most well-funded schools in Europe right now. The Imperial College London, Princeton, Oxford, Yale, and of course the University of Tokyo, Korea University, Harvard, and so forth. Next slide. And in terms of their graduate school majors, we have a varied mixed batch, ranging from biomedical engineering to frontier sciences to law, mathematical sciences, public health, public policy, international relations, history, philosophy, public policy, sociology, and so forth. The next slide. For those students that go on into employment rather than going on into graduate school, they also have a huge mix of different sorts of professions and companies that they work for. A lot of them will go into business, consulting, and management, or accountancy, banking, finance, education, media and communication. Some even go on into the sports industry or IT. Next slide. So, of course, we're going to answer as many of your questions as we can within this session, but also I would encourage you to visit our website, and also you can contact us with more questions from the links in that site. So thanks very much, Yuki. So let's move on then to questions.
Thank you very much, Professor Jefferson. So hello, I am Yuki from the PEAK Admissions Office, and I'll be speaking from now. Before we go to the Q&A session, we would like to introduce the PEAK faculty members and students that is going to be joining our session. So maybe you can start from Professor Suzuki.
Okay, well, so I'm a professor within PEAK, and I'm on the environmental sciences side. I'm actually an evolutionary biologist and ecologist, and I teach statistics and ecology, a few other little things, but those are my main topics within the program.
Thank you, Professor Jefferson. Next, can we have Professor Suzuki?
Yeah, can you see my videos?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you on the open campus session. My name is Sanae Suzuki, and I'm a faculty member of the PEAK, especially for specializing in the international relations in East Asia and Southeast Asia, and then international relations theories in general. Nice to meet you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Suzuki. Next, can we have Professor Boykman?
Hello, everyone. My name is Fusako Boykman. I'm Japanese language teacher. I'm doing the Japanese courses as a coordinator. Thank you for joining us today for the open campus.
Thank you, Professor Boykman. Next, can we have Professor Minamoto?
Hi, everyone. My name is Aiko Nemoto. I teach Japanese as well. Nice to meet you.
Thank you very much. So next, we have our PEAK students who are joining us. So maybe you can start from Edit Gujar.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Adat Amud Gurjar, and I'm currently a second-year student in the Environmental Science program. I come from India, so nice to meet you all.
Thank you, Edith. Next, maybe you can have Yifei Guan.
Hello everyone. So I'm a second year geek student and I'm a JU student on too.
Okay, thank you. Next, can we have Yip Runway?
Hi everyone, my name is Runway. I'm in the JEA program. I'm a current second year as well. Nice to meet everyone.
Thank you, Runway. Last but not least, can we have Hana Yoshida?
Hello, everyone. I'm Hannah, and I'm currently a first year student at Peak ES program, and nice to meet you all.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have these professors and students and some admission office staff to answer your questions. So from here on, we'll move on to the Q&A session, and we'll be first answering the questions that we received in advance. Since we received many questions, please understand that we'll be answering a selected number out of them. So we categorize these questions into 5 categories, which are eligibility, scholarship, and fees, lectures, student life, and admission. If you have any questions about the category, you can post them to the Zoom Q&A function while we are answering questions about each topic. Please do not use Zoom chats to send any questions. The Q&A function is the little speech bubbles at the bottom. Okay, so we'll start from 1, eligibility. So before we start, it seems that there are several participants who are here, but they do not fulfill the peak eligibility requirements. Hence, we'll briefly explain the eligibility requirements now. In the application guidelines, on page 8 to 11, we say that there are 3 different eligibility requirements that peak applicants need to fulfill, and they must fulfill all the 3 requirements. The requirements can be reviewed every year, so we kindly ask you to check the application guidelines every year if you're planning to apply for 2025 or later. The eligibility requirement 1 is about the educational history. Essentially, we expect each applicant to complete all the requirements of a 12-year formal primary and secondary education. However, there are certain rules in some cases they can apply even if they do not complete the 12 years education. Thus, we kindly ask you to check the application guidelines first. If you're still not sure about your eligibility, you can contact the admissions office. So we received some inquiries about this eligibility for today, and asking whether you can fulfill the eligibility or not is different based on each person's background. So we kindly ask you to email the Peak Undergraduate Admissions Office directly if you're not sure about your eligibility. We appreciate your understanding very much. The next eligibility requirement 2 is about education language. The basic rule is that applicants must have or will have received an education in languages other than Japanese for at least 9 years out of the 12 years and at least 5 of the last 6 school years before receipt of their high school diploma. Therefore, in general, if you're taking your high school education in Japanese, regrettably, you are not eligible to apply for PEAK. Instead, for those students, you need to take other screenings, such as general screening known as the Ippan Senbatsu in Japanese, and enter the University of Tokyo in April. If you enter the University of Tokyo with the Ippan Senbatsu, in the junior division, which is the 1st and 2nd year, you'll be required to take the designated courses in Japanese. However, it is possible to proceed to the PEAK for the senior division, which is the 3rd and 4th year study. There are several April entry students who have entered PEAK through this method, so please consider this opportunity as well. The eligibility requirement 3 is about standardized examinations. The applicants must have taken one of these standardized examinations specified in Appendix 1 of the application guidelines. And they also have to fulfill the requirements by the end of the application period. We accept a wide range of different standardized exams, but both international tests such as the SAT and ACT, and national tests such as the CBSE in India and Abitur in Germany. So we highly recommend you to check the Appendix 1 in the application guidelines first and start preparing for one of the examinations as soon as you can. Again, here's the QR code, so you can go to the application guidelines directly from here. Okay, so regarding the standardized examinations, we received several questions, but all of this should be answered in the appendix 1 of the application guideline. But we'll quickly go through it. So is SAT and ACT test needed? SAT and ACT tests are included in the standardized examinations that we accept. So you shall either take one of these or take one of the other examinations within in appendix 1. Next question. Can environmental science students apply if they get more than 4 points in AP Calculus BC, Physics, Mechanics and EM, Chemistry, and Environmental Science? Okay, AP will be accepted to fulfill our requirements only if you take SAT or ACT too. You can submit the results of AP if you think it strengthens your application, but to submit it, to be enrolled, you must take SAT, ACT, or any other accepted standardized examination. Regarding subject requirements for environmental science students, please check the instructions to submit the transcripts on page 17 of the application guideline. Next, I chose SAT as my standardized examination. In Appendix 1, SAT specific requirements note that applicants who test a digital SAT are advised to take AP if possible. However, I missed the test in May. Is it enough to take only SAT or should I take ACT simultaneously? So AP is not a mandatory requirement if you have taken SAT test recently. So although the AP is a recommendation, it's okay with just only the SAT result. SAT result will suffice. Next, we received some questions from the scholarships and fees. So the first question is, does the financial situation of the student influence when applying to a scholarship? The answer is no, it will not. So in principle, all scholarships are offered when successful applicants are notified of their admissions to the university. The selection of scholarship recipients is based on the screening process, so there's no separate application for it. Next question is, do you offer scholarships for permanent residence holders? So having a permanent residence does not affect the selection of the University of Tokyo scholarships, which is going to be written in the next page. So these are the scholarships. Here. These are the scholarships that are currently offered to the PEAK students. The University of Tokyo students, the University of Tokyo scholarship is a full scholarship, and you will receive the admission fee, the tuition fee, the living expenses of around 126,000 Japanese yen per month. Other than that, we have country-specific scholarships, such as the JUGIS scholarships for the Singaporean nationals, the JAGAN scholarship for the Malaysian nationals, and also the scholarship for Vietnamese students studying in Japan by the Fast Retailing Foundation. So please check the application guidelines or a website for further information. The information should be written in the chat. So we also received a question saying, I did not see the next scholarships as one of the scholarships being offered to the international on the latest application guideline. Are you still going to recommend students for next scholarship? The answer for this is that right now, PEAK is applying for the next scholarship. So once we get the next scholarship, once we know that we can offer this next scholarship, we would update our website and our application guidelines, and we'll notify our students through it. So once we do get it, we are expecting to get 5 more full scholarships for the students, which would cover the admission fee, the tuition fee, living expenses, and round trips, air ticket. Also, for your information, these are the basic fees that PEAK students are expected to spend. So the admissions fee is approximately 282,000 Japanese yen, which is one time. The tuition fee is 535,800 yen per year, which is fairly really cheap compared to other universities, especially those abroad. The accommodation bills is expected to have the 83,000 yen per month. This is the accommodation fee for the Mejirodai International Lodge, which is offered for the peak student for the first year. Now, also for the other expenses, the typical living expenses, they expect 80,000 yen, but this greatly varies depending on the person. The next question is the topic about the lectures. So there are 3 questions related to the Japanese classes. Questions are, does the school grant exemptions to Japanese students or near native speakers when it comes to taking Japanese language courses and which are aimed for the peak students? The next question is, when joining peak, the student must take Japanese language classes, but what do the students learn in these classes? Next question is, when taking Japanese language classes, what will be an option for Japanese students and near native speakers? So we have Japanese professors with us today. So maybe Professor Boytman, can you answer these questions?
Okay. Okay, can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, starting from the number 1 question, that we don't have exemptions of the Japanese language courses, even though you are near native speakers of Japanese, because every student need to take a mandatory or compulsory Japanese language courses first 1 semester and a half. Okay, and the next question, but depending on the student's ability, we offer the variety of courses, so you don't get bored by that. Okay, okay, number 2 question, when joining peaks. So then, as I said before, we are offering the variety of Japanese courses from daily conversations to the academic writings. So then also the reading parts also we offer the other courses. So you will learn holistic Japanese language holistically. That's my answer for number 2 question. Number 3 question. Option for Japanese. What would be the option for Japanese students and near native speakers? Okay, by taking Japanese language courses, we are offering academic Japanese language courses, which you haven't learned at the high school level. Academic language, academic Japanese courses means you can follow the academic the lectures in Japanese, and then also you can write the papers in Japanese. We are supporting that course. We are supporting the students who are lacking of these academic language abilities.
Okay, thank you very much. So in general, in peak students, when they enter peak, they take a Japanese language test and are located in the classes that matches their Japanese ability. So if they haven't learned Japanese at all, they don't even know the alphabet, then they'll be located in a certain class. And then if they speak Japanese a little bit better, then they'll be located in different classes that's a little bit higher. And if you're a native speaker or a Japanese student, then you'll be in the highest class learning academics Japanese, which Boytman just said.
Can we answer the question of the QA section? Yes, that we have a question. Once an international students learn the language, are they able to switch majors that are taught in Japanese? Is it related to this?
That will be related to the questions in the next slide, which is again about the lectures.
Okay, please go ahead.
Okay. So we received a question, which is, are peak students allowed to enroll in classes that regular Japanese students take? will it be accepted as a college credit? And this is also answering the question, once an international student learns the language, are they able to switch majors that are taught in Japanese? So first, about being enrolled in classes that regular Japanese students take. Yes, they can, but generally each course has some prerequisites. So they're required to take some credits or prior knowledge so that they can take that class. Peak Professor, do you have anything to add on?
Yeah, so basically, I mean, Peak is a program within the University of Tokyo. If you're in the University of Tokyo, you can take University of Tokyo classes. That's, that goes without saying, really. But one of the key issues that comes up is just, whether or not your Japanese ability is sufficient to take on a class that's taught within the rest of the university, taught to Japanese students or not. And when you go out to those courses, some of them try to teach in a way that international students might be accommodated and others don't. So generally, if you would like to take a course outside of Peak, then it's usually a good idea to get a sense of who the professor is, how they teach the course, and whether or not they can accommodate you or not. Because there are some professors that will do that and others that won't. As there are some divisions within the university as well that do that much more than others. So, yes, it counts as college credit, but it won't necessarily count towards your prerequisites. So you have to be careful about your prereqs to make sure that you can advance.
Okay, thank you very much. Peak students, did you take any courses outside of Peak?
Yeah, I have some experience with taking classes that were typically offered to April entry students. And yeah, since I think I was pretty confident with regular Japanese. Yeah, I didn't have too much problem with most of it. But yes, since the style could be pretty different, so that's one thing to maybe consider. Yes, but I don't think you should be restricted to things that you should be free to take courses that you like as well. So yeah, is there any courses that is taught in Japanese that someone might want to specifically take, then yeah, I think I would recommend to kind of look for options as well. Yes.
Thank you very much. Okay, so the next question is it possible to transfer to another department after entering the school? So this, I think, also answers, are they able to switch majors that are taught in Japanese? So students who are admitted to the Peak programs, the Japan and East Asia and environmental sciences, these students are expected to complete 4 years of their studies in their assigned program. So the next question is interesting one. What makes Todai...
Actually, before you move on, let me elaborate on this a little bit, because it's a point of confusion with some other systems, right? Because in some universities you can enter and then you can switch your majors a million times and nobody cares. Then the University of Tokyo is a little different, right? So it is technically possible to transfer programs, but it's hard. And there's no guarantee of success. So if you come into Peak on ES or on JEA, it's assumed that you're going to go through there. But if you don't want to do that, then there is a way to compete to get into other majors, right? So that this is the difficulty of it. And so our students usually don't do that. There have been some that have. They're very rare because of the difficulty in doing it, but it's not impossible. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. So going on to our next question, what makes Todai Peak different or unique from other schools? Maybe Professor Shepperson, do you have anything?
Well, this might be worth asking the students too. For me, one is that structure, this interesting structure of competition for majors, which we avoid in Peak, right? So if you're in Peak, you don't have to do that as long as you kind of stay in your assigned thing. But the other thing, because we're at the University of Tokyo is one of the world's great research universities, and so we have amazing scientists and academics around doing really amazing things. We have Nobel laureates on our campus. I'm a biologist, and so we had a Nobel Prize winner in the biology department very recently. And I find that to be a really great thing. And I love being within Tokyo too. It's a good location. So.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so maybe peak students, do you can give me your opinion? Maybe edit?
Maybe, oh, sorry.
Oh, either way, go, please.
Yeah, I was thinking I could add just a point about peak relative to other similar programs. So as far as I know, there's programs offered by Waseda and by KO as well. And I think the main difference between those programs and the Todai Peak program is in the Peak program, there's a lot more, I guess, integration of Peak students into the larger community of local students compared to programs in, let's say, Waseda or KO, where that doesn't seem to be emphasized as much. So I think you get to experience a lot more Japanese culture, Japanese university culture, and just, I guess, life in Japan. Yeah.
Thank you, Marie. Anything else you want to add on to?
Oh, I just wanted to elaborate on what Professor Shepardson said, that the research at Toda is very fantastic. And I know this personally because I have contacted quite a few professors regarding the research, and they are very welcoming to explain it to you, even though I'm an undergrad and they are doing some cutting edge frontier research. So if you're someone who's really interested in research or academics in that sense, so Toda is really a good place for you. And even though if you don't speak Japanese that well, you will definitely find something that interests you here.
Thank you. Okay, maybe Hannah, do you have something to say?
Yeah, I agree with Ivan's point as well about the research opportunities, and yes, like there's like a lot of variety of things going on as well, especially because we're in Komaba campus, and I think it's where a lot of like the liberal arts or kind of like integration sort of research happens here, as opposed to Hongo. There's also amazing research going on Hongo campus, which is sort of like considered as the main campus, I guess, usually in UTokyo, but Komaba also has great like research going on as well, and in Peak, since you're in Komaba the whole time, you get to kind of get like a closer kind of exploration at those type of what the professors are doing in research. So in that sense, I think there's some great opportunities in Komaba as well.
Thank you very much. So maybe we can move on to the next question. What's the most interesting thing about the Japan and East Asia course? So who's your favorite professors? So I guess this goes to the JEA students.
I think I can contribute something to that. So I'm currently a second year JEA student, and I think that kind of addresses Hannah's point as well. Excuse me. So the fact that we're in Komaba campus is a Toyo Gakubu specific campus. So it's a very unique concept specific to Todai compared to other universities, and also especially like American universities. This is called the College of Arts and Sciences. And I think that's what made our JEA journey very special, because as Professor Jefferson has mentioned as well, it's so the 4-year program is half of it is junior division, half of it is senior division. So before you move into the more specific streams in senior division, the 4th year and the 3rd year, in the first 2 years, what you do is you kind of explore all the different areas and courses within JEA, but also outside JEA, within the College of Arts and Sciences. So that kind of freedom and opportunities to explore is what I think made JEA really interesting and resourceful. So if you're not sure about what you want to do in the future exactly, I think it's a good opportunity to join JEA and to explore more on that and decide your specific path a bit later.
Thank you very much. So maybe like we showed in the previous slide, the field that they study and in the after they graduate is really variable. this is also because in JEA you can like get knowledge about a wide variety, and then you can select what you're interested and then like concentrate it on your senior division, which is in the 3rd and 4th year. Any other JEA students? Okay, then maybe Professor Suzuki, can you add anything?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. I guess I just want to make one point regarding interesting like things in Japan and East Asia. Since I think some of us like already explained that Peak is a as well as like Komaba campus and University of Tokyo has offer like interdisciplinary courses. So although you have something you are interested in something regarding Japan or East Asia and whatever, but you are not quite sure how to analyze, how to like understand this the phenomena or like things you're interested in. So then Japan and East Asia offer the several like methodology and then also disciplines to explain to frame your interest. So I guess the best things in Japan and East Asia to allow you to pursue or to seek what's the most interesting you think in regarding Japan and East Asia. So if you're really interested in like exploring like characteristic of Japanese culture, for example, like something to do with like the international relation in East Asia, for example, just find out your interest and then try to approach professors and how to understand the things. So that's things I want to make. Thank you.
So just to be fair, maybe let's go with the ES side as well. So what's the most interesting thing about environmental science course? Who's your favorite professor? Maybe they're ES students?
Oh, if I may again. Well, ES courses one good thing about them is that we have introductory courses in all these sciences. So even if you did not take any classes in high school that, like for example, you didn't take chemistry or biology, you don't really have to worry because you can, the introductory classes make up for them. So you need to put in a bit more effort, but otherwise it's all right. And you get to learn something completely new and different. Like for example, in chemistry by Professor Woodward, it's about quantum mechanics, and which at first sounds intimidating, but he really makes it a very interesting subject, which I think is a very challenging task because quantum mechanics is not one of those subjects that can be made interesting. So yeah. And then there are a variety of other courses like Professor Jefferson's ecology and statistics and a bunch of courses that I think they are more focused on the environmental science, of course, but you definitely can find something that you like. Yeah, I don't know if it makes it different or unique, but yeah, that's my take on it.
Thank you very much. I think we have one more ES student.
Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Another thing that I find that is pretty actually helpful when in ES courses. I mean, I'm first year, so I haven't really taken a lot of specific like environmental science classes yet, but so far I think the small class size is really helping with understanding like some of the especially the harder topics in environmental sciences, because personally for me, I never took like higher level physics or but yeah, I mean this course, like as it's kind of mentioned, we took like different science courses, so having the small class size helped, and also like the kind of the cooperative sort of environment, I guess. So you get to like kind of talk with your friends or talk with the professor very easily and figure out like any hard concepts that you might have not have touched in high school. So yeah, in terms of like learning something that you've never done before, you'll encounter that a lot, but don't think that is something to worry about that much in peak, especially because the class size is small and people kind of have will be able to help you out if you're kind of stuck on the question or concept. So that was good.
Thank you very much.
So if I may just continue for a minute more. I didn't understand the importance of what liberal arts education is until I got here, because in India, the very traditional university structure is that you go into a department for 4 years, and I think that is how it is in most schools. But the liberal arts here is like you can do humanities as well as science courses, and that is very interesting because as part of my credit requirement, I had to take humanities courses in from JEA. And initially, I thought of it as a burden, but at the end of those courses, I really learned something new and I enjoyed taking those courses. So I took high-level English, philosophy, and psychology and history, and all those professors did a very good job at what they were teaching. And instead of feeling it just as a credit burden, I really enjoyed attending each and every class. So I think that is one thing that the liberal arts is a really good point for Peak and Todai in general. So yeah.
Thank you very much. So as Professor Shepperson has explained at the beginning, there's the junior division, the year 1 and 2, which will focus more on the liberal arts, and the senior division, the year 3 and 4, when you'll be concentrating more on your specific topic. And in both years, I think, especially for the first 2 years, the JEA students are able to take ES classes, and the ES students are able to take the JEA classes. So you can take a very wide variety of classes. Professor Shepperson, do you have anything to add?
I think to me, probably one of the more interesting things about Peak in general, I guess, is just that because we started off as a program within a Japanese university, so we take the Japanese traditions and the way of teaching, but we mix it up, right? Because there are those of us who come from elsewhere and bring our own traditions. So it's rather interesting to, for me, it's been fun to try to mix American styles, for example, of teaching within this mix. And I know for Professor Woodward, he's tried to mix a few other sorts of styles within there. I think that makes our program also more interesting than some others because, if you take statistics, I have a way of teaching statistics that others don't. If you take his chemistry course, he has a way of teaching that other people don't, involving different kind of active learning approaches or things like that. So that's kind of a nice aspect, I think, to Peak and ES and JEA.
Okay, thank you very much. There's a question in the Q&A box saying, for the graduate schools that were mentioned, are the credits fully transferable specifically to the US? Maybe Shepperson Sensei, do you know anything about this?
So for grad schools that were mentioned, are credits fully transferable? I'm a little bit lost as to what this applicant or student is saying here, because basically this is an undergraduate program. So you get your bachelor's degree and then you're done. So you don't transfer those credits, you just get a bachelor's degree. And if you start graduate school, you start it with a blank slate. So I'm not quite sure what they're, you don't normally transfer undergraduate credits to a graduate program. It just doesn't work that way. Maybe if there's something specific that I'm missing here, this person can elaborate, but yeah.
Yeah, I think the graduate schools were the ones that were listed in the graduate schools that these Peak students went to.
Well, right, but you don't transfer Peak credit to that. You get your bachelor's degree and then you go on. That's it, right? So you would transfer if you decide to, if you decide, for example, to leave the University of Tokyo to go somewhere else as an undergraduate and continue your bachelor's degree somewhere else. Well, yeah, then you can transfer those credits. There's some way of doing it, and you'd have to talk to whatever school you're interested in about it. But to graduate school, it doesn't work that way because it's not graduate credit.
Yeah, so Peak is an undergraduate program. So if you have any questions about graduate schools, maybe it's better to look for a specific graduate school that you're interested in and ask them directly. Right, thank you very much. So the next topic is student life. Is it challenging for beginner Japanese speakers to study in Japan? And how many Peak students are there in one grade for each course? So any students, can you share your experience?
I think I can try to answer the first one because I did not have any Japanese background in terms of my culture and the place I'm from. At the same time, I didn't take any Japanese course in my high school. So I'm pretty much a beginner when so I think since we're going to immerse in a course for intensive Japanese for the first and half semester of our university life, I think that quickly prepared us to fit into the life in Japan. And in terms of studying, since all the courses are in English, I don't think there is a specific challenge in terms of studying in Japanese or studying in Japan. And at the same time, if you are really highly motivated to study Japanese or enter academic fields in Japanese in the future, then there's also a wide range of applied Japanese courses that you can take to boost up your Japanese ability even faster. So it's really a thing of personal choice, like what you want and how good you want your Japanese to be. In terms of student life, studying in Japan, I think that's also part of the advantage of PEAK and studying in UTokyo, because Japanese university campus life is very different and unique from other countries' universities. There are concepts like Sakuru and Bukatsu, which are basically like student clubs, but the way they run and are very unique. And if you are more confident in Japanese, or if you want to be more confident in Japanese, then joining these organizations or student clubs is a very good option. And I recommend that to you to make your student life of studying in Japan more fun.
Thank you very much. In your grade, how many students are there in JJ and ES? Like, do you have an approximate number?
I think it's about 15 to 17 in each class.
So about a total of around 30 students per grade.
Yeah, you can say so. But if you're talking about a specific course, like in JAES, then yeah. But like if you're talking about how many students in one class, that varies from class to class. So compulsory courses have a lot more classes because everyone has to take them, while others usually have less.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. All right, so the next category of questions is the questions about the admissions. So I'll be rushing through it. So how can applicants use DP certificates when applying? Are there any credit approvals? So we believe you're mentioning the International Baccalaureate Diploma Program for DP. If so, you can use the final grades or the predicted grades of the IB to fulfill our eligibility requirement 3. For the details, please check our application guidelines. And if you're asking about transferring credits to college level credits, regrettably, we do not accept it. The next question is it difficult to collect school profile? Oh, it is difficult to collect school profiles from all of my past schools. Is it possible to send only the latest school profile? Yes, we only require you to provide at least your latest school profiles. If you can't provide the others, they will be good, but it's not mandatory, so it's okay. Next question is, for other documentary evidence of achievements, could I gather all of my extracurricular activities, academic achievements, as well as working experiences in one piece and in portfolio format? So thank you very much for reading the application guidelines already. We essentially accept up to 3 pieces of documentary evidence as written in page 23 of the guidelines. So this means that you can accept up to 3 specific activities, achievements, or working experience. There'll be a sheet in the application in our application website, and you can list all the things that you've done, but you can only post 3 documentary evidence for those. Professor Jefferson, would you like to give any comments about it?
Yes, so please do not create one portfolio file and put it on there. Honestly, most of us are not going to sift through it. If you've got like pages and pages, then we sort of give up, because that sort of tells us that you're just, you're not willing to sift through what's important, right? And so that also tells us something. So choose really what you think is the most important. What are the most important academic achievements or extracurricular activities that you've done that you think really stand out, and just put those three, right? Don't go beyond that.
Right, thank you very much. Again, I think this person read the application guidelines. The essay part on the application guidelines says that please demonstrate that you are not an AI, artificial intelligence. Is that the question/topic of the essay? So yes, this is the essay topic. You'll be required to write an essay and post it on your online application page. Professor Jefferson, would you like to give any comments?
No, I mean that is the essay topic for this year. So that's what you've got to tackle. So good luck with that.
All right, thank you. Another question is, do Japanese students who live in Japan have the national standardized examination, which is the Daigaku Nyugaku Kyotsu Testo in Japanese, when applying? So for PEAK students, we do not request applicants to take Daigaku Nyugaku Kyotsu Testo. So generally speaking, those who take such a test may be recommended or requested to take the Ippan Senbatsu. So for taking Japanese classes in Japanese and entering the University of Tokyo starting from April. Next, how will the school decide whether the applicant is a native or non-native speaker? So if you're asking about the eligibility requirement too, it will not be based on whether you are native or non-native, but it's more about the specific boundaries based on the number of years each applicant takes education in Japanese. So Professor Jefferson, would you like to give any comments on this?
Yeah, so this really comes down to, well, there are two aspects to this. One major one is when you look at your education, and each year of your pre-university education has the education primarily, like more than 50% of the courses been in a language other than Japanese or not. And if it's been primarily in Japanese, right, then you're basically, we consider you native Japanese, right? And if it's something else, then we consider you to be, with something else. If the question is about whether or not you're a native, like whether or not your English is good enough, if your education has been primarily in English, then we assume that you're essentially a native English speaker. If it has not been, right? So if it's been, for example, mostly in Hindi or mostly in Chinese or something, then we assume that you are not a native English speaker and you're required to take things like the TOEFL or the TOEIC. Okay, so there's sort of two aspects that I'm not quite sure which of the student is getting at, but hopefully that answers both sides of it.
Thank you very much. Next question is, to join PEAK, there should be at least 5 years of schooling taught in languages other than Japanese during the first, second 6 years. Taking this into account, do junior and senior high schools that provide English-based classes count, even if they are schools in Japan that provide a few classes in Japanese? So the answer to this is that education in languages other than Japanese means that the vast majority of courses are delivered in languages other than Japanese. So if you're anyhow unsure about if your education fulfills its requirements, please contact us directly through the email, and we'll confirm it. In the Q&A box, we received, are you allowed to apply the year after having your application rejected? So I guess the next year? Yes, of course. So if you get entered or do not for this year, then you can apply again next year. Because I don't see anything on personal statements in the application guideline, are personal statements not required when applying to PEAK? So I think this will be included more in the essay. That will be the most, you'll be talking about your personal statements. Professor Jefferson, can you add on?
Yeah, we're not interested in the traditional sort of personal statement that you might expect at like a typical Ivy League school or something like that. We have an essay that we request from you. There's a topic which we mentioned earlier. That's what we want.
All right, thank you very much. So let me go to the next slide. We're almost running out of time. Any preference or ideal type of students which hope to have an JEA successful candidates? And could you demonstrate how deep of knowledge level in subject areas such as society, economics, business, literature, history, international affairs that students who apply for JEA students have? Maybe Suzuki Sensei, can you give a short answer to this?
Yeah.
So what you would think is ideal for
Right. Okay. It's very hard to answer the question. Right. This is maybe rather like my personal like expectation towards students, but basically, I hope that is shared with other professors offering course in Japan and East Asia. The best the most important things for us for me is like to have a student who are who are interested in like active participation in the courses. In other words, you speak up anytime, making comments and then asking questions. Since the older class in the peak actually is very small in number, so of course you are given a great opportunity to speak out and to stop my lectures, for example, and then ask the questions. And then by asking questions, by making comments, actually you can correct your thought. So that is one of the things you're required to write a thesis in the end. So this is maybe the most important things. Thank you.
And there's one more question: is having a strong political conviction important in competitive learning environment like the JEA? Political conviction doesn't really matter.
Is having convictions important in the competitive learning? Right. What? Not quite sure what you mean by the strong political convictions.
But it's not a requirement for the JEA, right?
No, I don't think so.
Maybe I can just chime in on this. At least within admission and all that, we go to great lengths to avoid, political controversy, political opinion. We don't want the politics of the applicant to affect their admissions. That's a pretty deep conviction that we have, not just within Peak, but within the university as a whole. So you're not required to have any strong political conviction at all. Certainly in coming in, and once you're here, we at least would like you to bear in mind that there are students here with a variety of political convictions from all over the world. So at least don't be pushy about it. That's my advice.
Have a peaceful, nice student life. So in the chat, I just wrote a webpage that introduced the background knowledge that JEA students should have. So maybe check that out if you're interested. Right.
Yuki, shall I answer the second question? Maybe I missed it out.
Oh, sure.
No, but if
you can make it short.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Right. I guess there's no the prior like kind of background is necessary. I guess for entering the PEAK program regarding the disciplines, several disciplines, because this is the one you will learn after entering the university. So patterns is important. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think we're right on time. So with this, thank you very much for listening. With this, we'll close the Open Campus Q&A session. If your question was not answered, or if you have any further inquiries, please contact us through the email. Thank you very much for joining the PEAK Q&A corner. And right now in the chat box, you have the link to the contact details. So if you click here, you can go to our website and you can find our email address to send us. So thank you much for joining the PEAK Q&A session. Please visit our website for more information. If you have not read the application guidelines by now, we highly recommend you to read them since it can help you prepare for the application very much. All right, then have a nice day. Thank you very much for joining.